I am Miles, the storyteller behind Noctavelle Audio, a home for emotional storytelling, soft fantasy, and haunting little dreams told in voice. If you enjoy stories that feel like a whisper in the dark, take a moment to subscribe to Noctavelle Audio and turn on notifications. That way, the next quiet story will find you right when you need it. Tonight, we return one last time to Mara and the Café at the end of Van Lane. Because some mysteries are not really mysteries at all. Some are just memories waiting for enough rain to rise again. This is the final part of the café that should not exist. So settle in, dim the lights, and let the rain carry us gently to the truth. By the time Mara understood that Lynn's name was familiar for a reason, the mystery had already stopped feeling like a mystery. It felt like grief, not for someone she had lost, but for something she had once loved so deeply that her mind had hidden it away. The first thing Mara did after the call with her mother was sit down on the floor of her apartment and press her hands against her face. The room around her was quiet, but it did not feel empty anymore. It felt occupied by something she could not name. Lynn, the name kept repeating in her mind, gentle and terrible at the same time. Not because it was strange, because it was not strange at all, because some part of her had always known it. She looked toward the window, where the rain had begun to gather again in thin silver lines. Not a storm yet, just a promise of one. Mara stood up, put on her coat, and left before she could think herself out of it. The cafe was there when she reached Van Lane. Amber light, fogged windows, the smell of coffee drifting softly into the rain. But this time, when she opened the door, Lynn was not behind the counter. The cafe was empty. The tables stood still in their little silence. A cup waited on the counter, untouched. The rain tapped lightly against the glass. Mara stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "Lynn?" she called, softly. There was a pause. Then a door at the back opened and Lynn came out carrying a tray of cups. For a moment, she simply looked at Mara, not surprised, not afraid, just very still, as if waiting to see whether the truth would be spoken aloud. Mara swallowed. "My mother told me your name," she said. Ling lowered the tray to the counter. "And?" she asked. "And she said you were my best friend. When I was little, before the accident." That did something to Lynn's face. Not shock, not denial. Something softer, something sadder. She nodded once. "I wondered when you would remember," she said. Mara stared at her. The room seemed to tilt a little, not from dizziness, from the sudden shape of a memory trying to surface after years underwater. "You knew," Mara whispered. Lynn looked down at her hands. "I hoped you would not have to come back all the way alone," she said. Mara's breath caught. There are moments when the body remembers before the mind does. The smell of wet pavement, the sound of a spoon clinking against glass, the shape of a laugh in the dark. And suddenly, without warning, it was there, a child's hand in hers. Rain falling hard enough to blur the street. A pair of red shoes. Lin, younger now, turning to grin at her under a broken umbrella. Mara gasped and gripped the edge of the counter. It was only a second, but it was enough. Enough to make the room shift into something real and heartbreaking. "I remember," she said, though the words came out thin and trembling. Lin did not move. She only watched Mara with a face so gentle it almost hurt to look at. "Not all of it," Mara said, "but enough. I remember rain, and a bridge, and you calling my name." Lin's eyes closed for a moment. "Yes," she said quietly. "That night, you fell, and afterward everything changed. Your family moved. I tried to find you, but then I was the one who disappeared first." Mara looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Lin took a breath. "The cafe was never magic, Mara. Not really. It is just a place I found after I grew up. A place near a street that rains more often than the others. A place I kept because I liked what it felt like when lonely people walked in and finally sat down." Mara blinked. "Then why does it feel like I have been here before? Is less than #075 because you have," Lin said. "Not as often as you think. Not in this shape. But when something hurts enough, the mind learns to turn memory into atmosphere." Mara let that settle over her. The cafe, the rain, the warmth of the bread, the way Lin knew where she liked her cup placed. None of it was a trick. None of it was a haunting. It was something more tender than that. A place built out of longing. Mara slowly reached into her memory again, and this time she did not push. She let the fragments come in their own time. A summer afternoon. 2 girls hiding from rain under a shop awning. Lin sharing a sweet bread rolled in paper. Mara laughing until she could not breathe. Then the bridge. The accident. Her mother crying in the hospital corridor. The blank, painful blur after that. And somewhere inside that blur, one small, steady thing had remained. A feeling, a promise, a voice saying, "I will still be here if you need me." Mara looked at Lin again, and this time she was not looking at a stranger. She was looking at the shape of the one person her heart had never truly let go of. "You waited," Mara said. Lin gave a tiny, tired smile. "I did," she said. "Not forever. Just long enough." The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, they felt honest, human, like a window opening after too many years closed. Mara sat down at the table by the window. Lin brought her a cup without asking. This time, Mara watched the steam rise from it and did not try to explain anything away. Outside, the rain began in earnest. Inside, the cafe felt different now. Not because it had changed, because she had. The mystery had not been a ghost after all. It had been memory softened by time. It had been love that had nowhere else to go. And maybe that was gentler than magic. Maybe it was even braver. Mara lifted the cup in both hands and looked across at Lin, the girl who had once been her best friend, The girl who had waited inside the rain. The girl who had stayed long enough to be found again. For the first time in years, Mara did not feel like she was standing at the edge of something lost. She felt like she had finally come home to a place inside herself that had been waiting patiently in the dark. And she understood then that some things do not return as they were. They return quieter, older, softer around the edges, but they still return. And sometimes that is enough. Some things do not come back as they were. They come back quieter and warmer and real enough to hold. And that is where Mara's story comes to rest. Not in magic, not in loss, but in the quiet, ordinary miracle of remembering someone who never truly left. Some things do not come back as they were. They come back softer, warmer, real enough to hold. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Noctavelle Audio and turn on the notification bell, so the next whisper in the dark finds you right when you need it. And if this final chapter left a quiet ache in your chest, leave a comment below. I read every single one. Until then, rest well. And if it rains tonight where you are, maybe listen a little more closely.